Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Insight with Praveen Puram. And thanks to Mana TV and TV5 for making this event live. And the main takeaway from this Insight with Praveen Puram will be on the AITP, that is Association of Information Technology Professional. This is a great organization where we can learn more things from the webinars and the CIO council events and whatnot, everything. So today we have our host, Mr. Steve Wright, who is the president of Atlanta Chapter of AITP. Hi, Steve.
How's it going, Praveen? Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Steve Wright has enjoyed a career in technology spanning more than 25 years. He has always served in an advisory and relationship development capacity, working within sales and business development groups for technology outsourcing, manufacturing, professional services, and recently staffing. His passion for technology has been always part of his DNA, as it's not only the basic for the career, but has long been his hobby. In addition to his desire to learn and self-educate in the tech field, he always been a proponent of giving back to the community. That has been given him so much. This has led to his participation in AITP, the Association of Information Technology Professionals, and his seat as president of Atlanta Chapter. Steve continued to match his desire to learn and giving back with his current role as a senior account executive at Synergis, a technology staffing firm whose passion as community excellence and services matches his own. That's awesome. Awesome profile, Steve. Welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot, Praveen. You know, like the profile says, a lot of this stuff comes very easy to me. I think, you know, the old adage of if you love what you do, you're never going to work a day in your life. In staffing, that might be a little bit different. I still definitely work for it, but I definitely enjoy the technical aspects of it.
I agree. Thank you, Steve. Steve, let's talk about the AITP. This is an organization, I think it's been like 5 decades here being in
it is steeped in history, and not a lot of people realize how long AITP has actually been around as an organization. It was actually founded way back in 1949 in Illinois, in Chicago. And we obviously didn't start off as AITP, but we started off as the National Machine Accountants Association, because IT wasn't necessarily a coined term back then, obviously. In 1951, we were granted a charter by the state of Illinois, and we opened up 20 chapters. Fast forward now through this history that I'm walking through, our cadence has always been doing monthly dinner meetings, and these have all been sit-down dinner meetings with a speaker to come in and discuss whatever emerging technology there is during, you know, at the time. At the point, there might have been touch-tone telephones might have been the topic of discussion. But fast forward, so in 1962, we wanted to have a name that was a little bit more inclusive, so we updated it to the Data Processing Management Association. And fast forward, we continued on. We became AITP in 1996, the Association of Information Technology Professionals. From there, in 2017, we merged with Comptia. They wanted to have a professional organization, so we became Comptia AITP. We just say AITP, but effectively we've maintained that. And we still maintain a very close affiliation with Comptia. It's a great relationship, but we kind of manage our own professional membership going forward. But as you can see, it's an organization that has been great to the community for a very, very long time. The Atlanta chapter was actually formed in 1953, so we are Atlanta's oldest a technology networking organization in a community that has tons of networking organizations. So
awesome, Steve. Steve, as you being the president, tell us more about how did you get engaged with AITP And what is your vision for 2020? What was your vision?
Well, I love to tell this story. So, for me, my career has been in sales in some form or fashion, whether it was IT outsourcing in healthcare, in selling wholesale distribution, computer peripherals to wholesale distribution, and system integrators, selling 5 megabyte SCSI hard drives for $2,500. All right, I'm going to date myself there, so y'all can figure out that one. But I had gone to so many different networking events, right? I've always had a passion to learn, and these networking meetings and community events are how I really gained my knowledge on what's going on from a continued education perspective. So when there was a topic that came up, I would always go to see the speaker, and of course, networking with who I could inside those organizations. I went to my first AITP meeting in 2014. The then President John Kosar was organizing the CIO Roundtable, which is our marquee event. And he had a couple of CIOs at the last minute. They had fires to put out. They couldn't make it. So he tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, Steve, do you mind, hitting your network and see if you can help me out here?" And I was able to find a couple of folks in my network to join the panel, thank goodness. And he said, "Why don't you come and attend?" I'm like, "Sure, why not? I'll go check it out." So I went into the room, and I didn't know anything about the organization really, because I had just started this company working with John. And when I went in, I realized I first was shocked by just the friendliness and openness of the group. I had been to so many networking events where it was a little bit, there's always a little bit of the stiffness when you kind of walk into a room. You can kind of see people are circling, trying to figure out who to talk to. But because this community has been around for so long, everybody, a core group knew each other. So there was a gentleman by the name of Julian Wade, and I don't believe he's he's been involved forever. He hasn't missed a meeting in 36 years. Julian will shoot me if I get that wrong, but he had walked up to me and said, "Hey, I hadn't seen you at the meetings before. What brings you here?" And I was taken aback, because here's a guy who knew everybody in the room, because he had just, it was a sense of community that was astounding. Now, I had told him who I was and let him know. I'm just like, "Hey, John invited me, but I'm also on a search for a director of security." And he's like, "Well, let me go introduce you over here. Here's the CISO of Aflac." And then I watched him, as other people came into the room that he didn't know, approach them, ask them who they were, what brought them in. Some were looking for jobs. Some were just looking to network with their peers. And he'd make those connections in that room. So I really got this sense of community and really also safe harbor, because the organization is, in our meetings, we're about 90% IT professionals and maybe 10% sales and marketing professionals. So there's really a lot of collaboration, a lot of discussion of what's going on from a career perspective, projects, emerging technologies and whatnot. So I'd love to tell that story, because that is what brought me into that room. And I really found the love of AITP at that point. And I had been so involved in communities and going to networking events to really go out there and network and meet people, because I'm in sales and business development. I found myself just wanting to get involved with this organization because I enjoyed the people, I enjoyed the topics, I enjoyed the collaboration and sense of community that AITP really brought to the table. So much so that I wanted to volunteer my time after hours, working 11, 12-hour days and still going out and wanting to volunteer my time to sit with a bunch of folks who really wanted to give back to that community and pay it forward. So I kind of started off getting involved with programs, helping line up speakers and whatnot, but it's definitely a passion, right? And to be able to reach out to technology professionals to come speak at an organization on topics that I want to learn about, right? Whether it's data science or blockchain or IoT or 5G and Wi-Fi 6, all topics that we had this year. It's great because and talk about the vision of 2021, it's really the same vision from 2020 and 2021. I'll get into a little bit more detail on this a little bit later, but our goal is to look at what the emerging technologies are in the near future, right? What's going to be hot? And I take a look at Forbes, I take a look at Gartner, I ask around, right? And so some of these technologies might not have been adopted yet, but they're about to be hot, and we all can see that they're about to pop out. So what I look for are technical subject matter experts to come and lead the discussion and talk about what they want, because what we don't do is have a professional speaker come out per se to talk about a particular technology, because we want to give the technologists themselves, the ones who are passionate about it, the ones who are getting their fingers into the mix, an opportunity to come out and have some professional speaking practice, as it were, because it is a safe harbor. You're in with a bunch of other technology people. And I love to, one of the examples was Chris DeBellis, who is no stranger to speaking, had come in, but he worked for Honeywell, and he's a machine learning AI guru. And this guy worked for Honeywell, created a project. He spent 2 years coming up with this code that moved a robot arm 5 feet. It was basically like a split-second move from a robotics arm using machine learning programming. But he spent 2 years of his life doing this one little movement and programming it. But as he's talking about and giving his presentation and leading this dialogue, the sense of passion that he had for what he did professionally just came through, and it was phenomenal. And of course, when you have that and you're talking about these emerging technologies and you have somebody that's passionate about it, the dialogue becomes that much more real and that much more genuine, and our audience always has some great takeaways. And by the way, our audience we're a generalist organization. So our audience is comprised of everything from junior level technology folks who just came out of college all the way on up to SVPs and CIOs who attend our events. So you've got subject matter experts themselves who are asking questions about, computer vision and the robotics component of it. And you've got other folks who are talking about how are you even approaching it from a coding perspective, or, obviously people from a networking background are approaching it differently from different areas. But because of the diversity of the questions and dialogue that goes on, the entire audience actually becomes part of the presentation. And awesome. Through that, everybody learns from each other, not only from the presenter, but from each other in those questions that are going on. So that will always remain a steady state as far as the vision of the organization and what we want to bring to the community in all of our events.
Awesome, Steve. So most of the viewers definitely are students and professionals and businesses and companies.
Correct.
So people who are watching this show, how can they benefit from AITP?
I mean, there's a number of benefits, and I can't have this dialogue without talking about the coronavirus and COVID-19 and what it's done within our organization and how it's changed us. And as scary as it is out there, there's some detriments that COVID-19 has caused. There's some actual benefits, right? For example, we had to switch. Now, remember, since 1949, we have been doing live sit-down dinner events every month, every year since 1949, and in Atlanta since 1953. It wasn't until this year that we had to start it in February. We did our first virtual meeting. Scary. We had never done it before. It completely broke the mold. I mean, we really didn't know. So obviously for your audience, it doesn't matter where you are. While we're virtual right now, all of our meetings are free. So please, our website, by the way, is AITPAtlanta.org. Please go on and check it out. There's some great stuff in there. I'll do a pitch for membership a little bit later. But everybody is welcome to come and attend our meetings virtually. They're fantastic topics. Um, from a benefit of AITP in general, it's the sense of community that you really get during these sit-down dinners. And we have kind of struggled to figure out how do we make those connections with individuals without breaking bread with each other first before having a discussion on a technology topic. So we actually recently revised our website. And if you become a member, which is $89 a year, you have access to our forums. And those forums are really there for our members to be able to have a dialogue with each other. And a lot of times it's, having a dialogue about the topic. We recently had it on blockchain. There was a great dialogue from our speakers who got on and just started continuing the conversation from the presentation. But one of the other benefits that we're doing, and this is a complete direct correlation to going virtual, is we're recording all of our meetings virtually. And we're putting them up on the website. So all this great content that we started off with AI Ops, with Jason Schlachter, we did computer vision with Krista Bellis. Tom came and did a talk on 5G and Wi-Fi 6. And in the past we've done, blockchain, et cetera, right? We had autonomous vehicles was one. So all of this fantastic content, which covers it from a historical basis onto what's going on today in all these areas, you'll have access to inside of our website as well. And what we've decided to do as a board of directors, since we've figured out how to do it virtually and record these meetings, when we get the vaccine comes out and we're back to sitting down and breaking bread with each other and going back to the live events, we're going to continue recording the content, and we will do it. So we'll have the events online live so people can see our speakers and doing their thing. But we'll also put that content on. So from here on out, all of our meetings and content will be recorded and uploaded onto our website. So as long as you're a member, you're going to have access to all this fantastic knowledge from these great technical subject matter experts in these emerging technology fields. And really, so I can talk about the benefits on the community and the networking side. It's not really part of our world right now, but hopefully 2021 is going to bring us back to that. But right now it's about the content.
Steve, you really touched upon good technology items like AI, ML, and also robotics.
Mm-hmm.
And also you spoke about forums, right?
Correct.
So when you speak about forums, all the professionals will be more interested to really look into the forums. Can our viewers understand more about forums? Is it separate for AI, ML, or it is all together? Or who are the part who will be answering these questions? Are they the CIO level, or the technical architect level, or anyone?
Yeah, it's not even a moderation; it's a conversation, right? I mean, look at it as a chat room. Our members can go on and start a conversation about any topic, whether it was the particular opportunity. I mean, and by the way, it is very, very, very new, right? We launched the website this year. The forums are just starting to get a little bit of gas, so we're getting people used to going on and having these chats, but there's not a moderator in these forums, right? It's an open dialogue and an open discussion, right? I mean, my vision for those forums are we could have a VP coming on and say, hey, I'm looking at a data visualization tool. I'm thinking about using Power BI. Has anybody else implemented this, and what are the downfalls of it? And then the community can come in and start talking about what are the positives, what are the negatives. I had this great partner that helped me out with the installation. Now that's my vision, right? We have to get the people in the forums having those dialogues and doing it. Frankly, the value of those forums are really going to be the people who are contributing to those forums. And it's not there to be a pitch, right? The intent of AITP and our members and our guests and our community as a whole is for people to come in and contribute to that community, right? We are very careful not to have anything be too vendor centric, right? So all of our speakers won't come in and pitch their company. They'll talk about a particular technology or dialogue. Now, if the conversation opens up and they say, "Hey, I'm looking at, I'm looking at an ERP system. Do you like SAP? Do you like Oracle? Or, I'm looking at choosing a new firewall. What's Juniper versus Palo Alto, or something along those lines." That's quite all right, but it's not there as a commercial avenue for people to actually present their companies. But again, to have a discussion, to help each other out as they're making decisions, and pay it forward with each other, if that makes sense.
Yes, of course, definitely, Steve. If I were to ask you one question on AITP, how do you differentiate AITP from any other organization like TAG or TIE or any of the chamber? What would you say is your strength?
Oh, that is such a great question. I get it all the time. For people who haven't come and experienced what AITP has when you go to the room, as you can see behind us, or behind me in my virtual background here, this is actually the CIO roundtable. In our normal meetings, we usually have 150 or 200 people show up to the CIO roundtable. It's banquet format. But when you talk about our regular meetings to have an open discussion on our emerging technologies, we'll have anywhere from 40 to 60 people attend these meetings. Sit down dinner. There's a cost associated with it. If you're a member, it's $35. If you're a non-member, it's $50. I mean, frankly, our cost is $40 per seat from the hotel, and it's a great meal and it's a great environment. But because we have an intimate setting, because it's not 200, 300 people inside of a room, when you come to an AITP meeting, you get to know everybody in that room. It is networking in the true sense of community and collaboration. And I have seen individuals who are just starting their career be able to go and talk to a very tenured technology executive and ask them their advice on how they can start their career path to move in the direction of becoming a vice president or becoming a CIO, or, hey, I want to stay in my technology lane and I don't want to move into management. How do I avoid those traps of really becoming that subject matter expert? And those dialogues are an open scenario within our meetings. It is not rocket science. It is not a coin differentiator. It is because the community itself cares about the folks who are attending those. It's a safe harbor. It's just a wonderful thing to experience. And that is not to say that the other organizations don't have that same sense of community. I go to plenty of TAG events. I love the Atlanta Scrum user group meetup, right? I'm a huge fan and proponent. Atlanta Deep Learning meetup ran by Chris Benson, down at ATDC. It's phenomenal. And these are organizations that are built and ran and maintained by people who are passionate about their particular domain. So they have their corner. Everybody's got their corner. Everybody's got their domain. I recommend, and again, I can talk about this a little bit later, but my recommendation is to your entire audience, whether it's AITP, whether it's TAG, whether it's TIE, which I've been to a few of those meetings too, they're a good organization, or whether they're meetups or domains, get out there and get into the community. Go sit down and network and get to know other people that have your same passion in your technology lane or other technology lanes that you're just curious about. You'll be amazed at what you can find out, the relationships you can develop. I'll tell you a very, very quick story, and I know our time is limited, but when I first got into staffing, I started working with NCR, with the company, and it was my first large enterprise account that I had ever worked with. And this was before I was really heavily involved in the whole community world. Now, the first requirement that I got that I needed to fill was a Joomla requirement. I had no clue what Joomla was. I mean, it was a complete blank to me. I had no idea. So I looked it up online. I obviously found out it was an open source CMS and whatnot, but a meetup came up for the Atlanta Joomla meetup. I'm like, well, let me go. I printed up a couple of copies of the requirements just to bring it with me, sat down, and there's a room full of, there must have been 50 people in there who were just focused on Joomla, talking about a lot of bells and whistles that went far over my head. But at the end of the event, I had asked a couple of people, like, guys, I'm very new to this. Could you give me a little bit more explanation? Like, here's a requirement. I'm trying to understand what this means. I had 5 people around me explaining to me what each of those points were and telling me about what they knew about NCR and their instance of Joomla, and actually introduced me to some people who were actually looking for a job and might be interested in what that was. And it all comes from a group of people who are very passionate about that domain. So I had no idea what to expect. And that is how I approach communities when I go out to a new group. I have zero expectations of what I'm going to get out of that, but I know I'm going to get something, whether it's a new friend, whether it's shaking a hand, whether it's knowledge from the speaker. I just cannot stress it enough. Get out there and meet some folks. You'll be surprised at what it'll do for you personally and professionally.
I agree with you, Steve. Some things can happen within the community very fast, even if you research and read a lot of books. I agree with you. So coming to this topic, so today's world, social media, right? Anything can happen. You may do anything. Any wonder can happen with any idea, right? One question to you is, do you encourage entrepreneurship from your CIO community? Is there any forum where if any of our viewers have some ideas, can AITP help them, form and norm and being successful? Can you be that, media?
It's really interesting. We don't make those types of connections. We do and we don't. We don't have a formulated process of connecting up someone with a new startup idea or growth topic and connect them up with a CIO who might be interested in that particular product, right? If somebody reached out to me on AIT on my email and just said, "Hey, do you know anybody, Steve?" or hit me up on LinkedIn or whatever other social media avenue, if I know somebody, I'll try to make the connection and I'll help you out. AITP as an association is not necessarily about making those connections and whatnot. We're an open forum of a community of technology professionals who are trying to help each other out. Now, I will say, when we are in those meetings, when we are sitting down and breaking bread together, just like Julian Wade had brought me in and introduced me to the CISO, I have continued that trend. So when somebody comes in that I do not recognize, I want to find out what brought them in. Sometimes they are in between jobs. Sometimes they have a startup and they are, we had one gentleman, I forget what the name of it was, but it was an IoT device, security device. And the topic was, it was obviously an IoT topic, but he had come into the room and I hadn't recognized him. And he's like, "I've got this idea. It's really neat. I love your speaker. I'm familiar with the people in the community. I just wanted to get some knowledge on this and have a discussion with other people who are involved in this to see if I can't get some guidance on how to approach the marketplace with this new product." Like, well, you need to go talk to Frank. You need to go talk to John. There's Sue over there. I know that she works in the R&D department of ABC Corporation. Making these connections inside of these rooms are really where that happens. And it's a shame that we are in a situation where it's all virtual and we don't have those rooms to make those connections. But, to your audience, I would say, reach out to me, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm Stephen W. Wright. If you connect with Stephen Wright, it's a comedian and it's a whole other thing, but Stephen W. Wright on LinkedIn. And, I kind of live in that world. making connections and staffing, as well as through the association is kind of my business. I'm happy to do it when I'm not engaged in a search. If I know somebody, if I don't know somebody, I'll tell you that too. But it's really a matter of a pay it forward, right? And I think the sense of community with our board of directors, with our members and our guests, all trying to help one another out, is really where the value is. But again, it's not like a formulated process. It's not like AITP hangs its shingle on helping entrepreneurs connect. Now, I will say, I did have a very nice discussion with a gentleman from the Atlanta Technology Development Center, which I hadn't realized is a state-sponsored incubator. I thought they were kind of personal investment, but it's obviously this is down at Georgia Tech. And we've invited him to come up and talk a little bit about ATDC at our CIO roundtable as a preamble, just as an oversight. But we are actually going to, through that organization, his very, very, very young startup companies who are in there, we're going to have him select one company at a pop. And then each of our meetings, we're going to give them the opportunity to come up and talk about their product and talk about their solution for a 5-minute pitch, not for investors, but just to give them the practice of talking about their idea and what they've come up with and what they're trying to go to market with. Not the growth companies. We're talking about, that 20-year-old who thinks he's got that gold piece, right? Or even somebody who's mid-career who's come up with that idea, who's joined AITP and started that. So that's another way for us to give back as well. And that is a brand new thing. So your audience is getting that news first. It's not it's a very loose partnership. It's just really just a conversation. It's a cooperative that we have with ATDC or trying to get off the ground. So hopefully it'll work out. We'll see.
Thank you. That's awesome, Steve. Let's touch upon what is the analytics like? What is the size of the AITP family today?
So, our reach, we have about 1,400 that are quote unquote in our database. And these are people that have come and gone, moved into the organization. They'll attend not all the meetings, but they'll attend 1 or 2 a year. From our membership, our chapter, it's from an organization national. I couldn't tell you the numbers. From our chapter, we've got about 100, 150 members, something along those lines. But we are certainly looking to grow that. And, I want to go back a little bit because we've transitioned a lot with this whole Comptia AITP scenario. So when we first merged with Comptia, our annual fee was $153, right? And that gave you access to Comptia professional membership as well as our local chapter professional membership. It became very costly, and a lot of folks that we had just couldn't afford to become a member for our organization. So with a diverse group of people who are involved in the Comptia Pro membership, we decided to make a split. So you can actually become a Comptia Pro member, which has a number of benefits from certification discounts, other discounts from a lot of corporate affiliates. It's like $49 a year, and it's huge. You get all kinds of insights over the email. I'd highly recommend it for a lot of folks, especially for online, by the way, for your audience who are all not necessarily in the Atlanta marketplace. But Comptia Pro for $49 a year gives you access to a lot of stuff. But for us, we have $89 is our annual membership fee. That $89 gives you access to the website, gives you access to the forums, gives you access to all the replays for our stuff, but also brings you in as part of our community. And again, when we are having our sit-down dinners, which are all held at the Atlanta Marriott Perimeter Center in Dunwoody, it's a very nice, it's always a 4-course meal. Everybody kind of starts with the desserts because the desserts are awesome, and then they dive into the meal. But it's a great meal. It's a great environment. It's $35 for the meetings if you're a member, $50 if you're a non-member. So I wanted to put that out there as well. But so in other words, you've got the Comptia AITP world. We manage our membership separately from the Comptia component, but for your folks who are not local to to Atlanta, they can become Comptia Pro members. And currently, they have access to all the virtual meetings for free in the Atlanta marketplace.
I've been, thank you for the insight, Steve. I've been to your CIO council meeting in 2019. It was amazing and awesome. And typically, what is your signature event, if I were to call?
No, well, you know, we've got it coming up, and thank you very much. How did I almost forget to promote that? So September 24th, coming up very quickly, right? 20 days from now, we are going to be having our 14th annual CIO Roundtable event. It will be virtual. We have an awesome panel lined up. So we have Michalos Rambos. I met him when he was an executive at Equifax. He is currently president and board of directors of an analytics firm called Quaero. I can't pronounce. It's not Quaero. I think it's Quaero. And then we have Brent McDaniel. He's CIO at the Rawlings Company, which is actually, he's an Atlanta staple, but he's actually up in Kentucky running that organization. That is a insurance subrogation company. We have John Budala, CIO of PowerPlan. We have John Slaughter, who's the CIO of Alliant Health Solutions. They used to be Georgia Medical Foundation, so it's a nonprofit. And then we have Trey Keisler, who is the CIO of supply chain for Georgia Power. Wow. Now, our whole idea on these CIO roundtables are to bring in a diverse set of CIOs, different industry sizes, different segments. We don't want to have a group of CIOs all from large enterprise, because our questions that we ask are fairly high level, right? We talk about career and how they moved into it. We talked about challenges. We'll obviously be covering COVID-19. We'll be talking about, a number of different hot topics. But to ask questions of a diverse group of CIOs, where one CIO might have a team of 40, where another CIO might have a team of 1,500, their challenges and responses to those problems are completely different, right? So we want to make sure our audience is hearing how these issues and situations are being overcome from a diverse group of leaders within the technology community versus all large it's not that all large enterprise CIOs have the same answer to the question every single time, the industry segments and whatnot, but we love the diverse response. And it's also a dialogue. We have a few questions that, we always don't get to all of them that I create, but because very often our CIOs would start talking about something and they'll divert off into a tangent and it'll be a really cool topic. And our moderator, Michalos in this case, Mick, he'll pick it up and he'll kind of run with it, right? And he'll kind of lead that dialogue down that path. Maybe they end up talking about how they're adopting artificial intelligence. Maybe they're talking about, hey, what have we done with our PA? Right. And I think robotic process automation is one of those emerging technologies. There's absolutely the possibilities are huge. Anyway, I'm going to start diverting into a little tangent myself.
Good luck with that. And yeah. If I were to ask you, what is a good learning during this pandemic for AITP?
What has AITP learned about the during this time? Mm-hmm. Every situation has a negative and it also has a positive. I think, it pains me to think a lot of what a lot of people are going through right now. But, from an ancillary perspective, these virtual meetings has created a situation where we've come up with something that was completely different that we would have never done before. We would have not started recording and doing virtual meetings. We would have not put this content up on our website because we wouldn't have been doing the recordings, right? We discovered something new and a new way of going about that we're able to throw in. The negative sides, it takes away from a lot of our core value of what we are for that face-to-face networking meeting and that sense of community. But you know, you got to take the good with the bad in these situations. And if you're not paying attention to those silver linings and looking for those unique benefits that come out of, you know, the trials and tribulations of situations like this, you might miss out on an opportunity.
I know. Thank you so much. I think we are at the end of the hour, Steve, and thank you so much for your time. And I would like to tell to my viewers, you can reach out to Steve for any of your questions you may have, any connections you may need, or in your professional career, business career, or the company connects. So you can reach out to me as Praveen Puram or Steve W. Wright on the LinkedIn for any information you may need. Again, thank you so much, Steve. And we will close this show with any of your last message to the audience before we close.
Just, you know, please go and visit the website. There's a lot of information on there. You can register please register for the event on our website, which is again, www.AITPatlanta.org. There's also if you don't hit me on LinkedIn, there's a comments question you can hit. I get all those comment requests. So a lot of ways to get a hold of me, and I promise I will do my best to respond in a fairly quick manner, as quickly as I can.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And all of you, thank you for your time for watching this show, and stay tuned for the next week with one more leader or any of the leaders who are in technology. Thank you, Steve. Stay safe.
Thank you, Praveen. Hope your audience stays safe as well. Talk to you all soon.